all doing really well. It's really sunny where I am today, so I'm definitely going to go for a short walk afterwards. In today's RE lesson, we are going to be looking at Christian churches, or more specifically, features that we can find inside a church. So hopefully by the end of the lesson, you'll be able to name and label some features and begin to understand some of their importance. Okay? But to begin with, I would like you to think about, can you remember 4 reasons why people go to places of worship? Can you remember 4 reasons why people go to places of worship? You can pause the video now to have time to think and discuss, and then I'll reveal the answers. Okay, so we've got to pray and feel closer to God or another divine being or beings. So, for example, Buddha, or Hindus worship many gods and goddesses. We've also got to learn more about the religion. So if you remember, we talked a little bit about how Muslims and Sikhs offered classes at the mosque and Gurdwara to teach children and young adults or adults about their religion. We've also got to celebrate religious ceremonies or special events in someone's life, such as marriage. And we've got to meet and talk with other people, or to simply spend some thinking time alone. Okay, so my question to you then is, what is a church? What do you think a church is? Okay, so a church is simply a place of worship for Christians. And we've got 2 images of different churches below. The first image is of St. Paul's Cathedral, so that's the big white building. And then the next image is of a small church that's in Milton Keynes. So, can you think, just from looking at those 2 pictures, what is similar or different about these 2 churches? Just from looking at them, what is similar or different about these 2 churches? Okay, so St. Paul's Cathedral is the grand white building, and some of you will already know that it was made from wood and unfortunately got burnt down in the Great Fire of London, but then it was rebuilt again, and this time it's made from stone. Okay, and then you can see how it looks a little bit more modern, doesn't it? And it looks a little bit more nicely decorated compared to the smaller church that's in Milton Keynes. The smaller church in Milton Keynes looks a little bit more plain, doesn't it? Because it's just made from stone and it isn't as nicely decorated as St. Paul's Cathedral. Okay, so I'm going to show us now a short video clip of a tour of inside a church. I want you to have your best listening ears on, which I know you already do, because I want you to be thinking about the different features you are seeing inside a church, because I want you to remember them, because I've got a small little activity for us after the video. Okay, so let me just get our video up. Okay, here we go.
Hello, my name is Father Philip. I'm the Vicar of Ottenham Church. I'm going to be doing this little video tour around our church so that you can see the important parts of our building and what makes church buildings so special for Christians. So come on, follow me inside and we'll have a look around. So here we are, just inside the church door. And I'm going to point out the first thing that you see when you come into a church. Now, this is quite normal for a church at this age. If I just pan round, you can see behind me what's called the font. Now, this is where christenings take place. It's what we do when someone is baptized. And it's a symbol of them becoming a member of the church. That's one of the reasons why a font is usually near the door of a church, because it's a symbol of entering the church. So that's the first thing to see on our little tour. When we just go past the font, we come to the bell tower. Now, if I just pan down a bit, you can see the ropes that are used for bell ringing. Now, they're all tied up at the moment, but when the bell ringers come in, they take those down and the ropes go all the way up to the top of the tower where the bells are. Now, these days, a lot of bell ringers just ring bells for fun. It's a hobby. but it also has a very important part in the life of the church. It's what we use on Sunday mornings to let the village know that a service is about to begin. Bell ringers often ring the bells at other important times of the year as a way of marking special occasions. Now, just behind me, you can see one of the stained glass windows in our church. And we're very lucky here to have some really beautiful stained glass windows that we can look at. Now, in this video, you might not be able to see quite what the detail is behind me. These are actually pictures of Moses and Joshua, who were important prophets of the Old Testament. A long time ago, when very few people learned how to read and write, stained glass windows in churches were a really important way of telling stories from the Bible and teaching people about the Christian faith. We still have some of these stories told in our windows today. I'm standing here now in the middle of the church, and you can see behind me the seats where people sit when they come to join in with a service. These seats have a special name. They're called pews. Now, what we have in this part of the church is a special symbol, and I'm going to try and explain.
So I'm just going to skip a little bit of it, guys, because not all of it we need to know.
I'm here at the other end of the church now, and if I just pan down a little bit, you might just be able to make out just about here where you're looking, there is a step up. Now, steps up in churches, particularly old churches like this one, have a particular meaning. When you step up into a place in a church, it means that you're entering a slightly holier bit of the church. And I'll try to explain a little bit about what that means. So just behind me here, you can see what is called...
Okay. And sorry again, guys, I'm going to skip just a little bit more because he's talking about some features that we don't need to know about. So let me just... There we go.
One of the most important volunteers are our organists. So Hilary is the organist here, and you can see the organ behind me. So this is a really important part of our worship, accompanying people as they sing our hymns. And just behind there, you can just see a little door. That's the door through to the vestry. That's where I go and get changed into special clothing before I leave worship. Part of that worship includes what we call preaching, or preaching a sermon. And you can see behind me there is the pulpit, where sometimes I will go if I want to preach a sermon to the people. It's raised up again. Now, do you remember what steps meant? Well, going up into the pulpit is a sign that you are about to preach about God, tell people about things to do with the Bible and their Christian faith. And it's also raised up so that in the times before we had microphones and ways of making things louder, you could hear what the preacher was saying all the way down at the back of the church. Now, the last little bit that
Okay, and then the last little bit, he talks about the kitchen, so we definitely don't need to learn about that. Okay, so let me just go back to the PowerPoint. Here we go. So, how many features in a church can you remember? How many features in a church can you remember? I think the vicar talked at least about 5. Okay, so see if you can remember 5 features. Okay, so features in a church that you will typically find are a cross. So this is also a symbol of the Christian faith, but it reminds people that Jesus died on a cross. We've got the bell tower. So this was what the vicar was explaining in the video. The bell used to be rung to remind people when it was time to go to church. We've got stained glass windows. So these often showed pictures of Bible stories. So what is a Bible? Can anyone tell me what is a Bible or the Bible? Okay, so the Bible is the Christian's holy book that teaches them about the religion and has Christian stories inside. Okay. Another feature that we'll also find in the church is a pew. So these are benches where people sit. We've got the altar as well, so that's the table used during church services such as Eucharist. So the Eucharist is related to the Last Supper that Jesus had with his disciples when he broke bread and shared wine before his death. Another feature we'll also find inside a church is the organ. So that's a large instrument that's used to play hymns. So the organist usually plays on the organ, and then the people are singing, okay, in the pews and the choir as well. We've also got a font, so that's the basin used for baptisms. Now, can anyone tell me, where is the font usually found in a church? Where is the font usually found in a church? Okay, so the font is usually found as you enter the church to show that you're welcomed into the Christian faith. So it's embracing you into the Christian faith. Okay. We've also got a candle, or many candles, because they're lit to represent God's love. Another feature is the pulpit. So that's a raised part of the church that the priest or reverend go up on to try and talk and preach sermons to the people. And finally, we have a lectern, which is similar to a pulpit. It's again a stand that someone might read from. Okay, so your activity then, let me just get the activity worked up for you to show you. There you are. Right, so this is going to be your activity sheet. So I would like you to name all 10 features of the church in the table below. So here you've got some pictures of the features. Okay, I would like you to name all of the features, and I would like you to write one sentence about each feature explaining its importance to the church. So for example, we can say the first one is a cross. Okay, and then why is the cross important again? Why is the cross important again? This is important. This is important because it reminds people that Jesus died on a cross. Okay, and I would like you to do that for all the different features in the table below. Okay, right, I'll attach the PowerPoint as well, so if you're finding it tricky, go back to the PowerPoint and that will help you. Okay, so I hope you all enjoyed that short little RE lesson. Until then, take care, okay, and see you soon. Bye bye.